Hi friends, WizD here, welcome to a new Raid Shadow Legends video. What are we talking about today? We're talking about how to prepare for a fusion if it's a good fusion and you decide that you want to do it. Why am I doing this video right now? Because of two reasons. The first one of them is that the last time I did such a guide was way back, probably during the Mighty Uko fusion. Is it over a year ago now? Probably it is. And the second thing is that the next coming fusion for May, which will start in a few days for Wixwell, is really a good one. He will be an excellent support champ, putting good buffs on you, great shield, extending the buffs and the shield. Before we start talking about today's topic, let me just say that I've been reading your comments. I know that the editing is not that good in the videos. I'm trying to work on this now. I'll spend more time editing so the cuts are smoother, and I'll also start using a more professional editing software. It's still a one-man show, so thank you for bearing with me, and I appreciate and love you all. Let's jump into today's topic now. First thing we'll talk about is the pure basics, how to know whether your account is ready to do fusions or not, before jumping into the specific resources needed for a fusion, so you can judge whether you have those resources saved or not. First point, are you farming level 13 dungeons? And we'll talk about what farming means here. Why level 13 specifically? This is the first stage in the 4 dungeons where you can have 6-star gear. This means your energy efficiency while farming the gear for the fusion, for those tournaments, will start to get better. Of course, the best energy efficient stage to farm for fusion is stage 20, not 13, but 13 is where it starts. So if you're not farming level 13 yet, ask yourself, do I have enough energy to waste to invest into running a lower stage to get this fusion or not? The only exception is Spider. Spider 10 can get you also good 5-star pieces that will fit into the fusion farming as well. But for everything else, and generally level 13 where it starts to get good. What do I mean by farming? You should be farming this specific stage with 100% consistency, so you're not wasting energy in less than 3 minutes. Why is that? For 2 reasons. So you're not wasting energy on failed runs, and the other reason is that you need to be farming it in a reasonable time because you run this stage so many times to get the points for the fusion. So if you're running it in 7 or 8 minutes, that's not farming. That's wasting too much time. Drop a couple of stages and farm there if you can still get the fusion while farming at this specific stage. Third major point is farming Gold 2 Classic Arena or higher. Why Gold 2? So you don't get dropped to Silver and it's harder to get the points for the Classic Arena tournament come Monday morning when the reset happens. So Gold 2 or higher is the place to be if you want to get those points for the fusion. The last major point that we have is simply having the shards. If you don't have the shards saved for the 2 summoning events that come with every fusion, whether it's from progression, from referrals, or if you buy them, if you're a spender, if you don't have the shards, you cannot do the fusions. So those are the 4 basic points that if you don't have, you won't be able to do fusions. Now let's go into the specifics of resources and what kind of resources do you need saved to do a fusion. First major resource that you'll need for a fusion is to have enough energy saved or enough gems if you don't have the energy saved, so you can exchange it for energy and do the farming that you need. How much energy do you need for a fusion? First type of event that will require you to invest energy in to get those points for the fusion are the 4 dungeon tournaments. How much energy do you need for each of these? The simple calculation is that, and this is rough, this is not accurate to the point, they change it sometimes, but this is the rough estimate here. You'll need around 2200 or 2200 points, which exchanged to roughly 1 energy per point to get those tournaments done. How many of these do we have? We have 4, as we're just saying, so you need 8800 energy over the period of the fusion. We're not talking about immediately or on a single day to tackle those 4 dungeon tournaments. What's next? Next type of events that usually overlaps with the dungeon tournaments is the dungeon divers events. Those usually require higher points than the dungeon tournaments, but you do them both at the same time. So you're using the same energy to get points in both events. Usually every 2 dungeon tournaments, if they do it right, if they don't try to waste our resources there, will coincide with one of the dungeon divers event. That means that basically you can get 4,400 points or 4,400 points just by doing the tournaments, and you'll get points for the dungeon divers as well. But the dungeon divers points to get all the fragments or all the rares needed for the fusion or whatever is usually higher than the level of points needed for the tournaments. Usually it's around 7,000 to 10,000 points needed for each dungeon diver event. So I rounded them up. Again, this is just estimates, but you need to make sure that you have this kind of resources. I rounded them up that you'll probably need 5,000 energy, maybe less, but let's be safe, for each dungeon diver to do it on top of what you're spending already to get the points for the tournaments. We have two of these, so that's another 10k energy that's required to do the fusion. Why I have a question mark here? Because in some of the fusions, if they want to make it really tough, they have 3 dungeon diver events instead of 2. If you get this kind of fusion, you have to pad yourself by another 5k energy at least on top of what we're talking about today. But regular fusions only have 2 dungeon divers, and that's what we have in the screen here. Third type of events that require you to invest energy in is the 2 champ training events that we have with every fusion. Champ training can be done without energy, or you can do half of it without energy if you have brews, but brews require silver. So that's an additional silver cost, and we'll talk about the silver cost next. But if you want to do it all with energy, with a little bit of brews, with a little bit of ranking up champs, if you have a lot of 3-star champs ready at 30 with their chickens to rank them up to 4 stars, so you're getting loads of points without investing energy. So the rough energy estimate to a hybrid like ranking up and everything, I estimated it at 5k energy for champ training as well. And we have 2 of these, so that's another 10k energy that's required for a fusion. As I was saying, you can do champ training completely without energy, and I've done it before if you have enough brews and silver and champs to rank up to get all the points you need without investing energy in it. But if you need energy, that's the estimate there, and probably this is the total. Do we have anything else? Yeah, this is the total amount of energy that you'll need for a fusion. The number might look scary at first, but it's not, and I'll explain why. So 29k energy is an estimate. You might need less, you might need a little bit more if you're lacking silver and you need to do some more farming for silver and such, but average estimate is 29k. Do we need all of it? No, we do not. In average, the game gives you around 1,000 energy per day over the period of the 2 weeks, which is the duration of a fusion, so you'll get 14k energy out of the gate. You might get more because you're getting energy from the events, you might have energy from doing advanced quests, you might get energy from the bazaar and other sources as well, so your daily energy might be higher than this. I'm using average for mid to end game players so that this guide is useful for everyone. So let's say that in average you'll get 14k energy over the period of the 2 weeks, and that's what you'll use to do the fusion. What are you left with? You're left with 15k energy that you need for a fusion. If we translate these into refills that you save into inbox or from events or whatever, you need 150 refills, or you need 4,600 gems to get those refills if you don't have them saved. Of course, most of the time you'll do a mix of these, like you'll have 75 refills and 2,000 gems saved, so that's how you'll do the fusion. In other fusions, you'll have enough energy saved in the inbox. Sometimes you lean more heavily on gems because you don't have enough energy saved. So it's a combination of everything. But to know what you need, this is the estimate that you'll need energy-wise for a fusion. Again, might be a little bit more, a little bit less, but this is the average that you'll need, and this is the breakdown of it. Now let's move to the second type of resource that you'll need for a fusion, which is silver. Silver is much more simpler to calculate because it's just an amount that you can farm more of. Usually we have 2 artifact enhancement events within a fusion. Again, a question mark here because once or twice they gave us 3 artifact enhancement events, so make sure that you have enough silver if we're starting the fusion and they hit us with a 3rd event of this type. And of course, what I try to do at the beginning of every fusion is that I release a fusion plan, not in every fusion, but I try to be accurate there because sometimes I'm not early enough to do it depending on work and everything. So I'll tell you ahead of time whether for this specific fusion you'll need more silver or more energy or what. What is the silver requirement for these 2 events? Roughly 20 million. 15 million might be a more accurate estimate here, but I like to pad myself a little bit in case you need silver for brews, for ranking up champs, for using mystery shards with the shards. So let's be safe. 20 million per event, 40 million total in silver used. Now we're going into the rarest of resources, which is the shards in the game. Unless you're hitting Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare consistently, you won't get enough shards. You have to save them from somewhere, either from progression, referrals, or enough time in the game from the random shards that you'll get from lower levels of clan boss. How many shards do you need today to do a fusion in Raid Shadow Legends in 2024? Usually within a fusion we have 2 shards events. The points are calculated differently for both events, and that's what we'll go into right now. The number of points needed for both events is what we're seeing on the screen here, around 5,700 points. But because the points are calculated differently for both events, it's not a straightforward equation like the other ones we've seen with energy and silver. Let's dive into it. The first type of summon event that we'll have within a fusion is a summon rush. Summon rush is a straightforward calculation against shards, so you can know ahead of time how many shards you need to tackle that event. Our estimate is based on previous fusions. Plarium might choose to increase the amount of points needed for this specific type of event at any time, but the estimate is from all the previous fusions so far. How are the points calculated for this specific type of event? Every sacred shard gives you 500 points. That's a straightforward equation, as I was saying. If you have 7 sacreds saved and there are 3,500 points needed for this event, then you're covered. If you're farming clan boss and not wasting your shards or opening them whenever you want, unless there is like a guaranteed event or a champ that you're chasing over a 10x, probably you'll have those 7 sacreds saved for the first type of event here. What if you don't have enough sacreds saved? Voids give you 120 points each, so still not a bad number. So between the two of these, you can probably, and ancients that we'll talk about in a sec, you can get enough points. My preference, and I've been saying this all along, I don't prefer using voids for a fusion, unless you absolutely have to and it's a really good fusion. What I prefer is that depending on sacreds and ancients, and then keeping voids for 2x's or late game for guaranteed events and such. But what about ancients? Ancients give you only 20 points in this kind of event, so you'll need hundreds of ancients if you want to tackle the event with them, which is not a bad thing. If it's like ancients 2x, you're opening them anyways. So depending on whether you need 3,500 points or 2,200 points, just figure out if you have enough shards to cover this specific event or not. And of course, as a last resort, if you have enough gems saved, you can exchange your gems for ancient shards if you want, if there is a little bit of a gap that you want to cover there. But of course, you can also do this with mystery shards, which you will get thousands of while playing the game. Second type of summoning event that's hidden behind me now is the champ chase. Champ chase point calculation is different from how the summon rush works. For a champ chase, you'll get 500 points per Lego, not per sacred shard. What does that mean? That you can get a Lego from an ancient shard, and this ancient shard just gave you 500 points. You can get a Lego from Void, of course, or whatever. So every Lego that you get will give you 500 points. So whether this is the event that you'll need 3,500 points for or 2,200 points for, you have to make the calculation of how many Legos you'll need. That's why it's a double-edged weapon in a champ chase, because it can be much easier if you get lucky, or it can be much tougher if you're unlucky during that event. Same way, Void Epics give you 350 points, and Epics, non-Void Epics give you 250 points. Rares give you 10 points each, so that's in case it's coinciding with the 2x Ancients and you're opening hundreds of them, like 150 or 200 of them anyways. That's the number of points you will get for rares. Of course, if you get lucky with Epics and Legos, you'll get the points for these as well. Champ Chase got a very neat trick that you can do to save yourself from opening shards. I had a couple of videos about this before. You can do Champ Chase completely without opening shards. How? Simply by keeping previous fragment fusions or Mithrala or Lydia when you get here. Don't collect those champs till the Champ Chase if it's closed and if you want to wait. If you wait till the event, then you just got free 500 points there. If you got a couple of these, you got 1,000 points or whatever. Another permanent way of saving yourself points there is farming the rares or having the rares when you open void shards or whatever in case of Broadmo. So you'll have a couple of Broadmoors and a couple of Relic Keepers ready for the champ chase. These can easily get you 1,000 points or more. So between this and that, you just got thousands of points without opening any shards. And then the last desperate way of doing it is just opening green shards for either event. Bear in mind that summoning those green shards, you'll need thousands of them. Other than the time factor and the effort, you'll need lots of silver. To summon them, feed them to each other, to clear the space, and then summon some more. So if you're doing it with green shards, and I've done so before, just make sure you have enough silver saved. So other than the resources, what is the main factors to consider whether you want to go for a fusion or not? In my estimate, if you are free to play, mid to end game player, or you're a low spender there, it will take you around 3 months to collect those kind of resources, to save them over time so you're ready for a fusion. So you have to be careful which fusion you spend your months-long saved resources on. So always ask yourself, is this a good enough fusion? Usually when they announce the kit for the next fusion, I release a video, I and other content creators as well. Of course, we express our opinions, but the final decision is yours, whether it's a good fusion or not. If, for example, it's a turn meter specific champ, and you got lucky, you pulled a few of these, and you think, I don't need another turn meter champ, then this is a fusion that you can skip, and you can save yourself resources and wait for the next good one. If it's a nuker, it might be the hardest hitting nuker in the game, PvP focused, for example, and you don't need any of those. You got lucky with a few PvP champs, so you don't need to go for this fusion. You can save for the next good one. Unless you don't care about resources and you're buying packs anyway, then you can go for every fusion. Or if you're in game enough that you're saving enough resources to tackle every fusion, then you can do this as well. Of course, now with Titan events and deck of cards and the Soul Stone tournaments, they're making sure we don't have any resources left. So you have to pick and choose. Should I get a crazy good fusion and then go after, assuming I have enough resources saved? It's 5-star Soul Stone, for example, and then I'll have to rest for 2 or 3 months to wait for the next good thing. Or what should I do? Should I just get the fusions and hope that I'll get lucky for soul stones from pulling the actual soul? For souls from soul stones, I mean, when I open them. The decision is always yours. Just be mindful of your resources and what you want to spend in game with real money, time and effort and such. Just be mindful of this and you'll be all good. You'll pick the right fusions that you want to tackle. That sums it up. That's all the resources that you'll need if you want to do a fusion in Raid Shadow Legends at the time of the release of this video, mid-2024. Thank you for tuning in today. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.